Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. So this will be your weekly astrology forecast for the week of January 19th to the 25th of 2025. Before we get into the charts here, if you are looking for a reading with me, you can head on over to my Etsy shop. That's mysticalmarkastro.etsy.com. I am still offering 50% off all readings in my shop if you use the code 50OFF. That's 50OFF in all capital letters. If you enter that when you go to checkout, you will receive 50% off the current listed price in my Etsy shop. All right, and if you are looking to support me on my Ko-Fi through membership or through donation, you do not need to donate. Nobody is obligated to donate. Only do so if you feel you want to. You can head on over to my Ko-Fi. It's shown in the video, which there we go. It's mirrored for me, so it's weird. It's over there if you're on YouTube and down there if you're on TikTok. But I've lost track. If you are a Ko-Fi member, there are different membership tiers. You can check out your perks and stuff there. They start at $1. You also get a special Discord role, even if you just donate or if you're a member or whatever, you get your own special role in the Discord server if you want to join the server. And again, you don't have to be a member to join the Discord server or to donate. The Discord server is free. There's just special member areas and you get a special role if you do. All right, so you can join the Discord server if you want. Link in the description below, in my bio if you're on TikTok. In fact, all links and stuff that I mention here are in the description below and in my bio if you're on TikTok, okay? And of course, the best and easiest way to just support me, the easiest way, what am I trying to say here? The easiest way to support me is just like the video, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube, hit that follow button if you're on TikTok. It helps the algorithm to do its algorithm thing. All right, and of course, comments are always nice. It's good to hear from people. It's good to see, all the likes and that people are enjoying the content that I put out. So thank you very much. Okay, I think we can get into the charts for this week. One thing I do want to mention before we just dive right in is that I tend to get stuff through intuitively when I do this. Because of that, what I get through, if it's a future prediction of anything, that is always subject to change, okay? Because we have free will. Everyone has free will. It can always change. However, because of the energetic cycles we're in, it's still going to stick with certain energetic themes, right? Astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things. Okay, so at least that's how I've been guided. That's how I've learned to work with this and use this, okay? Astrology is an energetic template conducive to certain things, follows the natural cycles of the universe. So when something is a vibrational match to what the current cycles are at, it's more able to become manifest or more easily, become manifest or work kind of through those energies, right? So that's what we're talking about here. So, but that is still subject to change in terms of whether you still want that or not, or you made a different choice, so it's going to happen. Maybe this is going to happen instead, but it's still going to follow those energetic themes, right? So it just kind of be mindful of that as I go through this here. All right, with all that being said, let me jump to the chart here for this week. So we're going to start off here on Sunday the 19th. Of course, this is when we're going to have the sun come into Aquarius. All right, so sun in Aquarius. Now we moved out of Capricorn season. Now we're into Aquarius, okay? Now we're into the sign of rebelliousness, change, living your authentic self, that type of energy. We have Pluto here as well. Pluto is giving power to this sign, right? We're going to have this sun moving into conjunction to Pluto as well. So we're here for big change, big transformation with this ingress now into Aquarius. One interesting thing that I did note, especially doing recording the last video, now into this one, especially with the nodal shift, now that the nodes have shifted into Virgo and Pisces, the energy feels very different now. Specifically in last week's video due to the nodal shift. However, but because of that, we have different rulers of South Node and North Node and all the same old stuff that I'm used to talking about for like the past year or whatever. It's like it's all changed. And it's not just what I'm speaking, it's like what I'm feeling with the energy coming through here is like change. Like there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of shifts coming through, especially with this year in 2025. There's a lot of things changing. A lot of outer planets are going to shift, and with this, even just with the nodal shifts from what I feel here, we've really started to begin that like already. So pay attention to that. Usually when I burp or whatever comes through, I should call myself the burping astrologer or something. That's usually them saying like, yeah, that's something to focus on or pay attention to, right? So we're in this space. It's going to feel different. We're heading into new areas, new avenues, we're heading into the unknown, like I said, with that North Node in Pisces. All right, so if you want to know more about that nodal stuff, you can check out last week's video. You can also check out a previous video that I did. It's on YouTube entitled Intuitive Future Message plus Weekly Astrology for whatever that week was. The intuitive message is right at the beginning of the video if that's all you want to watch of that. But yeah, so there's more information on the nodes in those videos if you want to check that out. Okay, so yeah, Sun in Aquarius, that's kind of the big thing that would be happening on Sunday the 19th here. Sun shifting signs, so we are now in Aquarius season, and especially with that Sun coming into conjunction to Pluto, there's this highlight of change and transformation and that powerful aspect of change really coming through here. Also on this day, we're going to have Mercury in sextile to Saturn here in Pisces. So Mercury in Capricorn, sextile to Saturn. Whenever we deal with Saturn and Capricorn, especially when we have, well, how do I want to say this? Saturn, Capricorn, it can be tough. It can be putting in the work. It can be tough. It can be like dealing with your boss. It can be like that kind of stuff. But with this sextile here, especially with Mercury and Capricorn, I think is what I was trying to say. Especially with Mercury and Capricorn, it can be a bit harsh. Communication can be a bit cold with Mercury and Capricorn. You have to remember Jupiter is in Mercury sign. Jupiter is retrograde, expanding on awareness of old things, old areas. So this could be setting new goals, setting new boundaries, the ability to say no to things that are no longer serving us, that kind of stuff, right? Saturn in Pisces, I consider the dissolution of malefic energy. It's dissolving that old structure, right? Pisces is a malleable water, it's that mutable water sign, it's malleable, right? So with that sextile, there's an awareness or a communication where we're realizing maybe what needs to shift and change, where we're going to begin to set new goals, communicate those goals, communicate boundaries, do those kinds of things appropriately to be able to move. Especially now we're in this Aquarius season, Sun is getting ready to conjunct Pluto, move into change, into new areas. And I feel like especially with a Jupiter in Mercury sign, even though Jupiter is retrograde, it's expanding away from those old things. Retrograde, going over old ground. We're expanding away from those old things, those old energies, etc., right? So again, it could be tough because, like I said, you could have to set boundaries. There could be new boundaries set. There could be new stuff, like I said, new stuff going on here. But this is ultimately for our highest good, as it's, like I said, a dissolution of that malefic energy. We're setting new goals, new boundaries. We're in new energy. We're moving into new spaces and new directions now. All right. Also on this day, we're going to have Venus in semi-square to Pluto. So again, I feel like there's an aspect of change still in relationships. I know the South Node has now moved into Virgo, so Mercury now rules the South Node, which could relate to this aspect of boundaries, new goals, etc., because what used to be practical isn't going to be practical anymore. There's an expansion of that awareness now with Jupiter in Gemini, and where Mercury rules, Mercury's ruling the South Node, so it's like this letting go of this old stuff, going over these old grounds, these old spaces again, in that sense. But we used to be with Venus doing that. But for some reason here, now Venus is with that semi-square to Pluto, there's still an aspect of that change, of dissolving, of changing whatever that structure is in terms of our relationships. Talked about it in the end of last week's video. This could be new commitments that are occurring with this Saturn-Venus conjunction, but it could also be a dissolution of old structures within that, especially now with that It's already happening at the end of next week, but it's just peaking on this day with that semi-square to Pluto. There's an aspect of transformation and change still within those relationships, and maybe within restrictions within relationships, where that's change, that's dissolving, or maybe there's more of a commitment, like I said, to that feminine energy at the end of last week's video. But there's an aspect of transformation and change that is occurring there within relationships, within the structure of relationships, and that could mean a dissolving or an ending in some way. But I'm feeling again now there's a very strong feminine energy it's almost like shifting, changing, but there's a structure, there's something that's there's something that's changing. It's like the old is letting go in some way, and whatever these Venus related themes are, whether it's career, relationships, or material things, whatever, in some way, there's some aspect of that is honestly just changing. It's just changing, but it has a very strong feminine aspect to this as well. In regards to the feminine, there's something that's letting go. There's a restriction that is being let go of in some way. And if you watched last week's video, I talked a lot about that masculine energy and the emotional shift and change that maybe was happening through that, and that could be relating to that as well. So there's no longer that restriction there or control there regarding that masculine energy, or at least that we're trying to work to resolve that or dissolve those old world bullshit things that have restricted that feminine energy so much. Or it's, remember, when I talk about divine masculine, divine feminine, that's energies that they exist within all of us, regardless of your gender identity or sexual orientation or whatever. That is all still valid, of course, but we all have those energies within all of us. All right? Okay, so let's move on here. And of course, that can also deal, if you vibe with like twin flame, divine counterpart type energies, it can relate to that as well, when I'm referring to the divine masculine, divine feminine. And of course, that's not just a heterosexual relationship. That can be gay relationships, non-binary, trans relationships, whatever. They can be twin flames too. They can be divine counterpart, all of that stuff, okay? There's an aspect of unconditional love that exists, especially within those types of relationships, but that should exist within all relationships, okay? Unconditional love. This idea that you have to fit into the mold or some fucking bullshit like that is just that, fucking bullshit. It's BS, right? Especially now that we're heading into Aquarius season with Sun conjunct Pluto, your uniqueness and letting your own freak flag fly, or whatever you want to call it. We're all, I guess you could say everyone's a freak in their own way because we're all unique, but that's not really being a freak. That's just you being you, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Right? It's just, some people call Aquarius, it's where you let your freak flag fly, but it's just where you get to be you get to be authentically you. You get to be unapologetically you, right? That's where that exists, and we have to learn to love and respect that about each other, right? We're all here to live our own individual lives, but we can still partner up. We can, have friends, partner with a tribe that's on our vibe, or like, and I mean, your partners don't even, whether it's romantic or friendship or whatever, they don't have to be the same as you. They can be completely different, but that's part of that fun, that aspect of uniqueness that makes it fun, that makes it interesting. So you can be friends with someone that's different than you, but you can still, bounce ideas off each other, or still enjoy each other's company. Enjoy that you're different, because it just adds spice to the relationship. It adds that spice to life. And that's that honestly true aspect of unconditional love that exists within that relationship, because you can still be with each other even though you're so vastly different, but you still allow each other to be your own individual authentic selves, right? So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to actual unconditional love. Okay? All right. We're also going to have Mercury here in sextile to Venus. So I feel like maybe there's an aspect of maybe boundaries or communication that's coming. Okay, so with that conjunction there, especially with Venus and Saturn, with Mercury and Saturn sign, with Jupiter here, there's maybe this expansion of awareness and maybe a dissolution of old structures and setting new boundaries and new things in that way. And that can deal a lot, especially in our relationships, especially with Venus in that semi-square to Pluto. There's a change, transformation that's going to exist within these relationships, and that could be setting new boundaries, setting new aspects of communication, to maybe dissolve old aspects of structure or set new goals within relationships or work, career, whatever those things are, in order to, continue to keep moving forward, to change. We're in new territory. We're in new, this all feels different to me. When I do these intuitively, when I do these readings, what I feel now from last week's video and into this one, now that the nodes have shifted, it feels like change. It feels different. It feels more like Piscean to me. We're dealing with Aquarian, Piscean type energy. It feels, at least that's what I say. I don't really know if that's specifically it, but it just feels different to me. And in fact, it actually feels a lot more feminine to me, right? In a lot of ways. But we're in new territory. We're in a new type of energy. As I'm doing this, of course, as I'm recording this, I'm kind of in a bit of some of the old, right on the cusp of the shift, but we're in this new energy. What I feel from this chart is the new energy. All right, so we're also on this day going to have Venus in biquintile to Black Moon Lilith. So part of, I think, what this Venus-Saturn conjunction is, and that dissolution, that change of those relationships, or maybe new commitments in some way, is with this Black Moon Lilith energy, especially in Libra, is where we've been outcast in terms of our relationships. And that could also be where we have been restricted. So there's something behind the scenes. I feel like with this biquintile, there's more of that feminine, like that changeable, creative, changeable, dissolving type of energy that is coming through to fix whatever this outcasted stuff is. Okay, with this Black Moon Lilith transit in Libra, it's not only it's being brought up where we're being outcasted in terms of our relationships, etc., but also where we need to heal and fix that, right? And that could be through those restrictions. We see through those restrictions now. It's like, all right, we need to dissolve these old ways. We need to dissolve these old restrictions. We need to expand in terms of more compassion, maybe not only for ourselves, but for other people, whatever the situation is, but in terms of aspects of change, and also in terms of setting fucking boundaries, setting appropriate boundaries, and be like, no, you can't fucking do this shit to me anymore. No, you can't fucking treat me like shit. No, like, I'm not gonna exist within a codependent relationship any longer, right? That's still, as much as, this is really weird, because as much as the South Node is no longer in Libra, it still feels like there's aspects of change in terms of relationships going on. What's interesting is that Venus is actually going retrograde this year. So when the South Node was in Libra, I said it was like a constant Venus retrograde. Well, now, this year, Venus actually is going to go retrograde. And let's actually have a look when direction changes. So March 1st, 2025, Venus is going to go retrograde. So we're heading into that already, right? We're heading into that Venus retrograde. So I still feel like that South Node Libra themes in terms of relationships or other Venus related themes, material things, sensuality, etc., we're still going to be dealing with that, but it's in a bit of a different way. So we're still dealing with the same themes of maybe things got to change, set boundaries, whatever, but I think it's in a new direction, it's in a new way, especially now that the nodes have shifted. Like I said, South Node Virgo, what's practical isn't going to seem practical anymore. We need to let go of that. It's going to feel like a constant Mercury retrograde, but there's still like this Venus stuff that is still coming up and occurring in a lot of these areas and these spaces. All right, also on this day, we're going to have Mercury in quintile to the North Node. Again, I don't know if I finished this biquintile, excuse me, but with this too, this could feel a lot like fate. We're going back to the Venus biquintile, Black Moon Lilith. There can feel like a lot of like fated stuff, aspects coming through, but remember, fate is what you create. So when this is happening, this is the energy conducive to this. So whatever manifestation that's wanting to come through from a higher realm can maybe more creatively come through within this energy as well. But this is really behind the scenes work surrounding this, especially as we're relating to Saturn, Capricorn, putting in the work behind the scenes to help resolve maybe where you've been outcasted in a lot of ways. This could even be divine help in some ways too. Like I said, it can feel like fate, but in all honesty, you manifest that. So yeah, just kind of be mindful of that coming through. Of course, this can be stuff that maybe you've worked on previously behind the scenes that is now coming through more to fruition, or working on it now behind the scenes to have this come through into the future as well. All right. Okay, now we'll move on to Mercury in quintile to the North Node here. So again, we're dealing a lot more with this creative, feminine type energy, behind the scenes type energy, same stuff that I've already said before. But with Mercury here, this is surrounding this expansion of awareness now that is coming through and putting in the practical physical work, setting the appropriate boundaries, setting the appropriate goals, setting, you know, like all of those things as it now comes through. Again, this is likely behind the scenes work, or work that has happened behind the scenes that is now coming through to fruition in a certain way. Again, this could feel like fate. We're also dealing with the North Node here. This is very feminine but creative work to move forward into this new, honestly, creative kind of direction here with this Pisces Neptunian way where the North Node is now, right? So this is very strong, feminine, creative, grounded type energy of really pushing forward in a new direction, honestly. So again, it can feel like fate coming through, but ultimately fate is what you create, like I said. All right, so that's Sunday the 19th. Let's move on to Monday here, the 20th. So on this day as well, we're also going to have Mercury in biquintile to Jupiter. There's a lot of quintiles and biquintiles going on. So there's something, it's almost like an aspect of fate again coming through in this way. In whatever way you want to say that, see that, again, fate is what you create. So we've manifested what we've created from our own higher selves, our own divine teams that work with us, a co-creation of all of us, as well, creation from, like I said, the higher realms, from source. It all comes through. We're all using these natural cycles of the universe, using these energies to manifest as well. This is why divine timing is a thing, because the energies have to be conducive to what you want to create. That's why you were born or came in at a certain time and you have a certain birth chart, etc. It's not just about your sun sign at all. You can take anybody that does astrology that only wants to talk about your sun sign, 9 times out of 10 it's probably nothing but bullshit. You have to look at your whole chart. You have to look at your whole chart. Anyone that does any of this, astrology or otherwise, with any amounts of integrity is going to look at your whole fucking chart, and is not just going to look at your sun sign or just your big 3. If that's all you're focused on, I'm sorry, but you're doing it wrong. Go ahead, hate on me, call me out. I don't fucking give a shit, because doing just sun sign astrology or just your big 3 is fucking BS. It's fucking BS. It just is. You have to look at your whole chart. So you think your personality and the person that you are is a very complex being. You chose a specific character, a specific role to play in this life, just wanted to experience certain things, etc. In order to do that, you needed to come in at a certain time, at a certain energy, at a certain way where it was vibrationally conducive to you creating that character of you. You think that is just one fucking sign with one fucking planet or luminary, in this case regarding the sun, or just 3 regarding your big 3? You think that's it? Fuck no. Fuck no. It's your whole fucking chart. It's how your houses line up. It's your house rulers. It's your chart ruler. It's all of the aspects. It's everything. It's everything, guys. It is not just your fucking sun. You may relate to certain aspects of that, yes. But that's not all it's going to be. Your sun may not even be the prominent energy in your chart. You could have other areas of your chart where there's more prominent energy that you actually express that has nothing to do with your sun sign, or maybe even your moon sign or your rising sign. At all. It could be something completely fucking different. You have no idea what your, well, maybe you do to an extent, but in terms of from that non-physical perspective of your higher self that wanted to live this character as you, is specifically why they did it in a certain way, to have the universe be like, okay, you got to come in at this day, this time, this way. How you co-created yourself with your parents from a non-physical perspective, all of that stuff to come through at a certain time to do certain things. This isn't just some simple fucking bullshit where it's a sun in one sign. It's not at all. Sorry. I think that's maybe a strong message that wants to come through here, but it's also like, okay, don't shoot the messenger. But yes, that's something that I've always really strongly felt. What exactly was I talking about here? Okay, Mercury in biquintile to Jupiter. Okay, so maybe it's an expansion of awareness and setting appropriate boundaries and stuff coming through. It could very well relate to this energy and conjunct Uranus's North Node, aspects of change that we need to make, and through awareness, through the expansion of awareness. So maybe that is an example of that that is just kind of flying through with this reading in terms of what I'm doing here. And I think I was talking about fate and how you create your fate, etc. And like I said, there's just a lot more to this, guys, than just something so fucking stupid and simple. Like, yeah. And even for me, astrology, okay, you know what, maybe I shouldn't get into that right now. If you want to learn more about astrology or know like how modern Western astrology works and how it's all related, and it's not even fully related to the constellations is what I was going to say. It's a 360-degree chart. Each sign is 30 degrees. Do you think the actual constellation is only 30 each of them is only 30 degrees in the fucking sky? No. These are constellations that exist within that 30-degree realm that were representative of those areas at the time when this was brought through. All right, but the actual constellation, the constellation themselves really has nothing to do with it. It has to do with that 30-degree range. This is like a radio dial, and it's like shifting frequency as it goes along by degree, by sign, by decan within the sign, etc. as it shifts. And it relates to the Earth and the sun and the relationship between the Earth and the sun, and it restarts every year at the spring equinox when the sun comes into Aries at that point, and then it relates to the natural cycles between the actual Earth and the sun as it exists within the solar system, and everything that relates cyclically with that as within our solar system. I could probably be explaining this better, but this video isn't like a intro to astrology or whatever, but I just kind of wanted to explain what I was coming through, what I kind of wanted to say regarding that. Rather than just not talk about it, I'll just say it, and then if you want to know more, you can ask me about it another time. Okay, anyways, Mercury in biquintile to Jupiter. This is, again, like I said, could be faded energy, behind the scenes, very creative, feminine type energy, whether you have been working on it behind the scenes or whether you're working on it now at this point in time behind the scenes. But there's an expansion of awareness that is coming through in a very practical sense, a very grounded sense. And again, it could be that aspect of setting new boundaries, setting new goals based on that expansion of awareness away from those old things regarding aspects of changes and those big changes that we are needing to occur in a very honestly practical way, in a lot of ways. All right, we're also on this day going to have the sun in semi-square to Saturn. So again, sun in Aquarius, basically in conjunction to Pluto at this point, in semi-square to Saturn in Pisces. This is complete and utter change, guys. This is dissolution. Like I said, Saturn in Pisces, the dissolution of that malefic energy, the dissolution of that old structure, that old way of being. Well, here we go. Here we go. We're dissolving that old structure. We're dissolving that old way. Change is occurring. Change is happening. Change is occurring on this day. Right? It's huge transformation, shakeups, changes. It's like in a big way. We're dissolving those old structures, those old world things. It's all being dissolved and changed, ultimately transformed and changed into a new complete way. And this can deal a lot with people, money, career type stuff, as Venus is still here conjunct Saturn as well. So could be a strong people related aspect to this as well. But this is very much change. It's very mutable, dissolvable, but there's a fixed energy here with this Aquarius, but it's fixated on change, on destabilizing, on shaking things up in a lot of ways here. All right, also on this day, we're going to have Mars in trine to Juno. So again, this is Mars retrograde in trine to Juno here as well. I talked about this last week. I think I talked a lot about intimacy surrounding this, oddly enough. But with this Mars retrograde now, especially in Cancer, this is that divine masculine, or just the masculine, if you want to say that, going over old ground, or like a re-review of how that's expressed emotionally, how the masculine expresses emotionally. If you want to dive into that more, you can watch last week's video where I talk about that a lot more. There's a trine here with Juno. Juno deals with partnerships, contractual partnerships, any type of contract at all, or committed partnership. It could be business contracts as well. And in Scorpio, we're dealing with aspects of transformation, change, but what came through in this time was actually sex and sexuality. So with this, it could deal a lot with this emotional expression of intimacy and transforming and maybe healing that in some way. But this actual going over this old ground in terms of how the masculine has actually expressed and presented itself in that way. What's kind of coming through now is the idea of vulnerability and maybe a lack thereof of vulnerability in terms of the masculine perspective in a lot of ways, right? Because true intimacy comes with being vulnerable. I mean, you're literally naked with each other, shoving things in each other's bodies. Like, that's like, it's like, you know what I mean? There's a strong aspect of vulnerability there. That's from a physical perspective, but we're talking here, especially with these signs like Scorpio and Cancer, from a very like emotional perspective, like as well coming through. And like I said, with this Mars retrograde in Cancer, in terms of how the masculine expresses itself emotionally, and this can deal a lot with vulnerability in terms of emotional vulnerability, but also in terms of how that relates to intimacy, because Scorpio is pure, real intimacy, which is experienced on all levels: physical, emotional, spiritual, sexual, mental, every fucking level, and experiencing everyone for all that they are, good and bad. Like, you got to let it all out, especially in terms of healing, in terms of actual real sexual healing. You have to lay it all out there in order to be actually transmuted in that way, to have that to actually happen in that, be healed sexually in that way. You have to be able to have that sense of vulnerability and have someone unconditionally love you and still be intimate with you despite all the skeletons that are hiding in your closet or your hurts or whatever that is occurring there that needs to be transformed. However, we're dealing with like that partnerships here. So there's an aspect of change within partnerships, what I was talking about there was aspects of intimacy within partnerships. However, what was coming through was there was an aspect of transformation within maybe contracts or corporate contracts coming through. And this is not sexual now. Well, I mean, in some ways, maybe it is. But, and that could go in a lot of bad ways. Yeah. But it's this expression, like I said, of that masculine energy in maybe an emotional way in terms of, like I said, transforming those contracts, those partnerships or whatever. But it's transforming this masculine expression. I feel like maybe moving into a more positive direction, or maybe the masculine being more standing up emotionally for what's right, expressing from the heart more. I talked about this more in last week's video, so maybe check that out. Watch that more surrounding what I'm talking about here. But in terms of expressing from that masculine way, maybe more emotionally. Remember, Mars retrograde, we're going over old ground. This is a re-review, a reworking of that expression from that taking action emotionally, taking action. Like I said, it's that masculine expression emotionally in that way and through that aspect of vulnerability, and transforming our relationships in that way, and maybe ultimately healing certain relationships or changing certain contracts in that way as well, because we don't want things to be done in the old way any longer. All right. Okay, so that is Monday the 20th. Let's move on here to Tuesday the 21st. So we are going to have a quarter moon today. Blah, blah, blah. So quarter moon, of course, in Scorpio. Not surprising. Okay, so this is the last quarter moon, because after this, we're then going to have the new moon in Aquarius. With this, though, we're having... Okay. All right. I thought my app was screwing up again because whatever, because I'm like, okay, what about the Sun conjunct Pluto? But that's also happening on this day. So the Sun conjunct Pluto happens earlier in the day, and then this quarter moon happens. Where are we? Okay, so 2:31 p.m. Central Time on this day, and then the Sun-Pluto conjunction happens 6:28 a.m. Okay, so here we go. We have the Sun in Aquarius conjunct Pluto, the modern ruler of Scorpio, with the Moon in Scorpio, where Pluto is ruling, in square to the Sun conjunct Pluto. And we have Mars here in the Moon's sign. So what I was talking about, this masculine stuff and maybe that sexual intimacy, whatever, it could still play a role here with this quarter moon square in terms of aspects of change, in terms of what I was saying regarding maybe the expression of that masculine energy into something better, hopefully. What I feel is that it is something better. But what really this quarter moon is really pushing for that transformation and change. Right? We're heading now at the end of this lunar month, as we head into this new moon in Aquarius, there's an aspect of transformation and change as well. And it's dealing with masculine energy. There's a masculine energy that's coming through here relating to an aspect of maybe vulnerability in some way coming through, or we're healing that masculine energy in some way as well. So there's, again, with that Sun conjunct Pluto here, especially in Aquarius, we're focused on and illuminating, aspects of transformation and change. Very strongly, it's really coming through now. Very strongly, very powerfully, aspects of change is here. It's what's happening here, especially with this Scorpio Aquarian type energy. Scorpio's transformation really pushing, it's that power to transform, right? And a lot of this could be emotionally, it could be bringing up a lot of emotional crap here as well regarding this masculine energy that is coming through that needs to be changed, that aspect of vulnerability that I was talking about that was coming through here. But ultimately with this square, with this conjunction rather, that aspect of transformation and change, and with this square as well, is really pushing for this resolution, this transformation that needs to be occurring here with this. So interestingly enough, also on this day, we're going to have Mercury in exact square to Chiron in Aries. So again, there could be harsh communication coming through, but again, what we want to do here is that what I'm feeling now is this is like, again, that Capricornian aspect of setting fucking boundaries to move forward and heal in our own independence, sovereignty, etc. That is coming through. All right, Jupiter is still in Mercury sign here. South Node is now in Virgo, another Mercury sign. So what we've deemed as practical is no longer going to be practical. We're expanding here with Jupiter and Gemini into new awareness, new areas, new whatever. And we need to set appropriate boundaries to step away from the old shit and move into the new stuff, right? And ultimately, this is for healing. Right? This energy can be used for bad, that some people probably will, where it's going to be triggering and hurtful to people. But ultimately what I feel coming through here is that this is setting new appropriate boundaries, this expansion that is occurring here through this maybe awareness in setting those boundaries, or communication of boundaries, communication of new goals, etc. coming through, laying that new foundation for maybe a new world, a new way of being that is coming through, ultimately for our own healing, independence, and another word that I was getting also was sovereignty, like I had said before, surrounding this Chiron and Aries energy, right? It's healing the sense of self, healing, like I said, independence. There's an aspect of freedom as well coming through here, especially with that Sun conjunct Pluto that is happening in that quarter moon in Scorpio, right? Transformation and change, freedom, shaking things up, right? Rebellion, all of that kind of stuff that is really strongly coming through on this day. All right, that's Tuesday the 21st. Let's move on to Wednesday the 22nd here. I've got to double check this. Sorry, if you watched last week's video, you know that this app that I fucking use to monitor these aspects that are peaking is kind of a bit wonky from its past update. So we've got a Venus in quincunx to Chiron, or semi-sextile to Chiron. I don't know if this is going to be... Let's see if it's going to show... Okay, it does perfect on the 22nd at 5 a.m. It's just, it doesn't quite show it. It's showing that it happens on this day, but it doesn't have the thing here where it shows that it's actually fully aspecting. I mean, the energy is still all these aspects are inherently happening because they're within orb, or if you trust the orbs, or if you go outside or within it, whatever, however you're intuitively guided to do this. But it's like I focus on what's happening specifically, like what's peaking on that day as like the exact degree or whatever that it's happening. But yeah, anyways, Venus in semi-sextile here to Chiron. So again, I feel like relating to these Venus-related themes conjunct Saturn with that dissolution of malefic energy, the changing of structures regarding people in some way, there's an aspect of healing. Really. Ultimately, this could be triggering to some, but sometimes that triggering ends up healing in a lot of ways. But because Chiron is direct, like this energy is direct that exists here, we're moving in a new direction regarding healing in terms of independence and, like I said, sovereignty. And there's some type of, I don't know, whether it's through our relationships, through committed partnerships, in some way surrounding that, or the dissolution of, like I said, those old structures, because we're dealing with Pisces here regarding those relationships. Like I said, there's still an aspect of Venus here that is coming through, likely up to and through the Venus retrograde that will be occurring this year, that will be existing. There's still going to be changes surrounding people. And this could be surrounding structures, whether that's corporate structures or government structures or whatever, surrounding those people, as in a dissolution of that. It becomes more malleable and changeable in some way surrounding this energy that's ultimately healing. So yeah, and like I said, because I mean, when you look at our world in terms of corporations or governments or whatever, they're not really structured for the benefit of the people. When it's the people that should be the ones that are truly in control, and those structures exist to support the people instead of the other way around, like they currently are. Right? It's supporting the few instead of the people. It's enslaving the people instead of supporting them. Right? So there's something about it changing in partnerships or whatever that's occurring here, and even with this Chiron energy, like I said, ultimately for healing to move forward in some way, whether that is from a corporate perspective or a government perspective, or from just in our normal relationship perspective. How any of this that I'm talking about would directly affect you would have to look specifically at your own chart. Take what I'm talking about, look at your own chart to see where this is falling in there and maybe what it's aspecting or whatever, and see that. Or you could, if you want, get a reading with me, 50% off, use code 50OFF, link in description, or in my bio if you're on TikTok, right? So, but if you don't get a reading with me, make sure you get a reading with someone that has some fucking integrity and isn't going to talk just about your fucking bullshit sun sign, okay? Anyways, moving on. Thursday the 23rd, we're going to have Mars here in sextile to Uranus in Taurus. So again, I feel like we're dealing with strong aspects of change regarding this masculine type energy. Mars and Uranus are both retrograde and in a sextile here. Uranus and Taurus, like I said, I've always considered that cattle prod energy, that's sticking that bull in the ass to get it fucking moving, because Taurus is so stubborn, it doesn't like to change. But with Uranus here, it's also learning to see the value in change and what we need to change. Now we need to move forward in this stuff, right? With Mars retrograde here, it's that expression and taking action based on our emotions. But this is the masculine energy. If you watch my previous videos regarding this Mars retrograde, it's the masculine reviewing its own expression, especially since the retrograde started in Leo. Its own expression. Leo likes to express from the heart. But in Cancer, it's this emotional expression, right? This is how we take action emotionally. And how we want to do this in an appropriate way and not just in the old world way where it's just from anger or from whatever. We need to take action from the heart. Yes, you can be like angry, but from a positive way. I'm talking about the old school way is just wanting to fight people just to fight them, or just to start fights, or just to, like, that old school bullshit, right? Where you just, instead of trying to resolve something first, you just go directly, like, right to their throat and just, like, no. Like, if someone's, coming at you, trying to go whatever, then you gotta stand up for yourself and fight. But, like, this is about resolving things and being more in your heart, being more in that positive emotional space, and expressing actually emotionally in a more, I want to say in a more masculine way, but in a more positive masculine way, as in standing up for what's right, fighting for what's right, not just fighting for fighting because it's you're some dude and that's what you're supposed to do. That's just fucking stupid. I'm sorry, it is. The old way, the old template of masculinity, you can just fuck right off as far as I'm concerned. You're here to be you in whatever that is. If you are naturally like a stoic, man or whatever, and that's naturally you, then that's fine. That's naturally you. But that's not everybody, and not everybody should be forced to fit into some stupid fucking mold, is what I'm trying to get at with this. And I feel like that's a lot what this energy is this stubbornness to change away from those old things. But it's like with this sextile, especially with both planets retrograde, it's like, we gotta fucking change. We're reviewing these old spaces, and it's like, hey, this hasn't been working. Right? I talked about in last week's video too. There's no good masculine role models on this fucking planet. None. Like, we got social media influencers and shit like I don't know, who's that kick streamer, like Aiden Ross or whatever, who's a piece of shit, and that who's the one that like crashed his car and then just wanted to keep filming even though his friend was like bleeding in front of him and the car smashed, and they're like people are trying to help him or whatever. I forget what his last name is, Doherty or something. I shouldn't probably be calling these people out, but like what I'm trying to say is like he's an idiot. And like that idea of masculinity and just like that old school masculine that's just being a fucking douchebag and just thinking you can do whatever you want and get away with it, and or like that Andrew Tates of the world and like that kind of stuff. Like, I'm sorry, but that's fucked up. When you're dealing with that old school masculine, like you think you can do what you want and just like R-word people and like all this other stuff. No, you can go fuck yourself with that. That's what I mean. That's what needs to change. We need positive masculine influence, not the bullshit negative stuff that is so popular everywhere. Why do people watch them? Why do people watch that stuff? It just floors me that even exists in the world today. Like, honestly. Like, anyways. But that's what I feel like this is like there's that you need to see the value in change here, into changing into a more positive masculine expression, especially from an emotional level, not coming at it from anger, but coming at it from other positive emotions as well, or positive anger as in fighting for what's right, standing up for what's right, and not being a cunty fucking douchebag. All right, so there's a sextile here surrounding those aspects of change. And like I said, Taurus is very stubborn. It doesn't want to change, but we need to learn to see the value in change here and move forward in a new direction and away from like those people being popular. That's just fucked up because they shouldn't have the platform that they have. I'm using that as like an example of what this kind of is. Not necessarily calling them out, but also kind of calling them out because that's an example of what not to be in a lot of ways. All right. We also have Mars here in opposition to Mercury at the end of Capricorn. So again, I feel like maybe what I was coming through was how I was like reacting sternly and like standing up and being like, no, that's what we can't be. That's kind of what this Mercury in Capricorn opposite Mars retrograde in Cancer might actually be like. But like what I'm saying is setting that appropriate boundary and being like, no, we can't fucking be like that anymore. It's done. right? It's setting that appropriate boundary and setting new goals and stuff like that, but from a positive perspective, from acting emotionally from the heart, from a positive way, and expressing that instead of in the old way, right? And then with that sextile, that's what needs to fucking change. We need to move to the new way and not exist in the old way any longer. Okay, so with that opposition there, though, like I said, there could be some, but what I feel, I was going to say some fiery expression, but what I feel is that it's, again, setting new boundaries. The masculine needs to learn a lesson in a lot of ways in how it expresses. However, a lot of this is what we've been manipulated to believe in terms of how the masculine is supposed to present itself. But again, it's just a manipulation. You have to look into your own heart and how you truly feel you want to express. If you feel, okay, I was going to say if you feel you are more of like a masculine leaning. And again, that you don't have to be, you don't have to have a dick dangling between your legs to have that happen, okay? But what I mean is it can also be our inner masculine as well, in terms of everyone, like I said, regardless of gender identity, sexual orientation, whatever, we all have both divine masculine and divine feminine energy within all of us. So that could be our own masculine expression as well, or how we express that side of ourselves, regardless of our gender identity or our physical gender. Okay, so again, there's that aspect of it, and also how we're taught to believe men to express and exist, whatever. And this is especially emotionally in a lot of ways there as well. All right, so there could be some kind of expression. Again, Jupiter is in Mercury's sign here. So there's an expansion of awareness here, maybe, and where we need to expand and change and set new boundaries, set new goals, etc. surrounding this energy. All right, Mercury is also in square to Black Moon Lilith on this day in Libra. So again, this is where we've been outcast. So like I said, is setting new boundaries, standing up for what's right, and being like, no more codependency, no more being put upon, standing up for those who have been fucking shit on for so fucking long. That's what a real man does, is stands up for what's right, defends what's right, and helps to fight for it, instead of being a fucking coward-ass pussy and just fitting into what society tells them to fucking believe. Go ahead, hate me for saying that, it's the god-honest fucking truth. Okay? And in order for it to change, you need to see it for what it actually is. You know what I'm saying? So I said it like that, but in order for it to actually change, you need to see it for what it is. A lot of that is Scorpio, right? People don't like Scorpio because people don't like to face what they need to face. They blame it on the Scorpio. It's not the Scorpio's fault. They're just bringing their vibe in, and that other person is the one that doesn't want to see the skeletons in their own fucking closet. Scorpio knows damn well the benefit of you having to face what you have to face to heal it, transform it, to move to something better. People just want to ignore it, sweep it under the rug, and then go focus on, I'm going to focus on over here and what's happy or whatever. You're not truly going to be happy if you don't actually face what you have to face, heal it, transform it, and actually fucking change to, be that phoenix rising from the ashes, that rebirth to move in a new direction. Okay? But with this Mercury, or that expansion of awareness of Jupiter in Gemini, that Mercury ruling the South Node in Virgo, what's practical, what's that in our world isn't going to be that anymore, right? Constant Mercury retrograde for the next 18 months is what it's likely to feel like. And with this square to Black Moon Lilith, like I said, this is standing up for what's fucking right. With Mercury in opposition to Mars, square that Black Moon Lilith, look, there's a fucking T-square here from Black Moon Lilith to Mars to Mercury opposition Mars. This is about time somebody pulled their fucking head out of their ass and actually stood up for what was fucking right. There's also an opposition here to Chiron, so there's actually a T-square happening here. This squares to Chiron, Mercury, Black Moon Lilith, etc. in terms of where we've been outcast, where we need to heal that masculine energy as well, in terms of expression, appropriate setting of boundaries, etc., right? And what we need to face as a world and as a society, and moving forward into a more real expression of that masculine energy. You're not a pussy if you tell someone how you feel. You tell someone how you feel, you're being vulnerable. It takes strength to be fucking vulnerable. It takes strength to admit wrongs. It takes strength to admit how you actually feel to someone in whatever way that is. whether it's love or whether it's negative or whether it's whatever, to face what you got to face to really truly move forward in a new way, and to stand up for what's right, and to not be outcasting people or feel put upon in a lot of these ways, and to actually set appropriate boundaries and to stand up for what's fucking right. Okay, and this is the masculine energy within all of us. And yes, it can relate to men physically, but again, I'm being drawn away from that, as it's the masculine energy within all of us. Because you can be a woman and express more masculine. You could be a man and express more feminine, right? But we have both of those energies within all of us. And we're not going to fit into some stupid bullshit archetypal role of what it means to be a man or a woman. I don't care what the fuck is between your legs. You can express however you express that is authentically you, right? And so this is healing that masculine expression within all of us. And I feel like a lot of this is related again to this still sun in conjunction to Pluto within 3 degrees there on this day around this transformation, this change that is really needing to occur here in our world moving forward. We've also got Mercury in trine to Uranus as well on this day. So again, there's communicating these aspects of change, learning to see that value of change. There's a shakeups, there's that rebellious aspect, setting boundaries from that rebellion perspective, from that old way. Remember, Uranus is retrograde, going over those old things, being like, I'm not going to fucking do this anymore. We're setting new goals, we're setting new boundaries, and moving into like new directions as well. This could be positive shakeups in terms of what is communicated, what is happening. Remember, Jupiter is in Mercury sign, right? So there's an expansion of awareness here, setting new goals, new boundaries, new foundations and expansion, but surrounding these aspects of change. And maybe that's, shocking in terms of what is coming through in that sense as well. So pay attention to what I was just saying there. All right. And again, Mars also comes into an exact square to Black Moon Lilith as well. So that T square is very intense, Mercury, Mars, Black Moon Lilith, but their Chiron does kind of play a role there in terms of that wounding, right? So again, with that square of where, you've been kind of outcast, like I said, or where in terms of relationships where you've been outcast in terms of that masculine energy, right? It's all of what I've already just said. And the masculine has a big lesson to learn here. It's going over old grounds, it's reworking, we're relearning what it means to express in that masculine way in a lot of ways as well. All right, so that's Thursday. Let's move on to Friday the 24th. On the 24th here, we're going to have Mercury in sextile to Juno. So Mercury heading to the end of Capricorn here at 24 degrees in sextile to Juno here. Well, it's going to meet later in the day, like, what's the time? 10:50 p.m. Central Time. So this could be even into Friday for a lot of people. Into Saturday. But yeah, with this sextile here, again, surrounding these aspects of transformation within these partnerships, contracts, business contracts, any type of committed partnership in terms of maybe new boundaries, setting new boundaries, setting new goals, that kind of stuff that is really transforming. There's a foundational transformation here. There's expansion of that awareness that is occurring here, that is changing within whatever these contracts are. They're transforming, they're changing, but ultimately for the good. There's a new foundation that is forming here, new awareness, new communication coming through, etc. And it could be that awareness and communication that sets those new boundaries, that sets those new clauses within the contracts, etc., to be able to transform them and change them in a new way, and in a hopefully very positive way as well. All right, so that's Friday the 24th. Let's go to Saturday the 25th here, where we're going to have Uranus in quincunx to Black Moon Lilith. So again, there's an integration and possibly a frustration here surrounding these aspects of big changes that we need to make regarding where people have been outcasted. And I feel like this is likely maybe in terms of money, in terms of our material things, the physical world, as well as that exists within our relationships, as well as justices, injustices, etc. with this. And this is changes that we know that we need to make, and there's integrations that need to occur here, especially where we've been outcast, where we've been put upon in this area, and the big shifts and changes that are needing to occur here. Okay, what's coming through now is there's still some of this old energy that exists here that is needing to change. So at the beginning of this video, I talked about how this energy feels new, and it does, but there's still some stuff that is needing, it's like loose ends that need to be tied up as we shift into new energy. So the old isn't quite done yet, but we're experiencing the new, but we're still kind of tying up loose ends with the old. All right, and that can deal a lot with, like I said, that Venus stuff that I talked about earlier, but especially with this Uranus in this in quincunx here to Black Moon Lilith, because I feel like we're dealing with a lot of this Libran Venus related type energy. So it's still like there's loose ends that are still needing to be tied up here. There's an integration that needs to occur surrounding aspects of change. This is very Venus related, as both these signs are ruled by Venus. Venus is in Pisces. This is a very feminine energy. There's this the dissolution, it's malleable, it's changeable. We're manifesting new aspects of change here, but there's an integration that needs to occur surrounding this. I feel like this could relate a lot to maybe how the feminine aspect or energy has been outcasted in a lot of ways here as well, in terms of relationships or codependencies, just being shit on, put upon, etc. But there's an integration here surrounding these aspects of change that we know that we need to fucking make, surrounding maybe this feminine aspect, how the feminine has been treated, but even just with those Venus-related themes in general as well. All right, we've also got Juno here in a biquintile to Chiron. So regarding these what is transforming regarding these contracts and partnerships, etc., that I've talked about in this week's video, there's something coming through here that's ultimately healing surrounding these transformations and changes within these committed partnerships, contracts, business contracts, etc. I remember biquintile is very strong, feminine, behind the scenes, creative type energy, putting in the work behind the scenes type energy. So whether this is being put in behind the scenes now or has been before, that is now just coming through, but I feel like it's kind of being, at this point, being put in, the work is being put in behind the scenes like now, to ultimately heal through whatever this transformation of these contracts are, to heal ourselves, through to gain independence and through sovereignty, etc. here, with that coming through. Now, it can feel like fate in a lot of ways, but remember, as like I said, you create your fate. All right. Okay, also on this day, we're going to have Mercury in sesqui-square to Jupiter. So again, with the sesqui-square, it's like a super square. It's stuff that can no longer be swept under the rug. Interesting, Mercury still in that opposition to Mars. With that sesqui-square to Jupiter, like I said, this is that expansion of that awareness where we need to expand. In terms of our communication awareness, etc., what we're learning with that and where we're grounding that in through goals, through setting appropriate boundaries, through maybe learning to say no away from those old things. Jupiter's retrograde, remember, and is conjunct Uranus's north node here regarding those aspects of those big changes that need to occur, that need to be made. This can also be related to Venus as well. Venus rules Taurus and Pisces, dissolution of that malefic energy, like I said, surrounding that feminine energy, etc., and that expression of the masculine that needs to shift. All of that stuff really strongly coming through here. But there's something that can't be swept under the rug any longer regarding maybe what needs to be said, that awareness that needs to be laid into that new foundation, new goals set, new boundaries set, etc., with that really strongly coming through with that new awareness, that new expansion of that there as well. All right, we're also going to have Venus in trine to Mars on this day as well. So now I feel like, yeah, this is really kind of now pushing for this energy to really work together. Venus in Pisces is a very feminine vibe, right? Mars, Cancer is also feminine, but Mars in Cancer is Cancer is more emotional. It's where we want to feel comfortable. And now what I'm getting is this is the masculine feeling, learning to feel more comfortable within this energy and within that feminine energy, and allowing that to flow within themselves, and understanding that when those two energies are in balance is when things are going to work at their best. Is when you have both masculine and feminine energy within balance and working together, and the masculine appropriately expressing, being vulnerable, all of that stuff in that way. What I'm getting now is it's the feminine helping the masculine through this in a lot of ways to be in that vulnerable space, to be more compassionate, learn to be more compassionate, etc., in that emotional space, and allow that expression to come through, ultimately to heal and to move in that better direction. Remember, Mars is retrograde. We're going over those old spaces. We're reworking a lot of this stuff as well. Again, we're dealing with Cancer. This can deal a lot with family stuff too, if that's kind of what's coming through for you specifically in your life. But I'm doing this from a higher level, a mundane astrology perspective here. If you want specifically what's in your chart, like I said, you would have to get a personal reading. All right, that looks to be it for this week, because we're at Saturday there. Let me bring it back here. Again, another long video, but it is what it is. All right, thank you all for watching. Thanks to all those who have made it this far in this video. If you have made it this far in this video, please leave a comment below with a purple heart. With a purple, how do we do it? How does Gen Z make their, I don't know. How does Gen Z make their hearts? I like how they make their hearts. I can never do it. Anyways, leave a purple heart in the comments below that you've made it this far, so that I know that you're a real one. Okay, and thank you so much. I hope to see you all in the next video. Bye for now. Bye.